Hey everyone, it's Sami here at a gaming podcast. Today I'm joined by an extra special guest, Nhi Do, the talented voice actor behind Watcher in the critically acclaimed Canadian-made game 1000xRESIST. She is a versatile performer with a background in musical theater, improv comedy, on-screen roles, including a part in Zack Snyder's Watchmen, which I think is really super cool, and the award-winning web series Narco. How you doing today?
I'm good. Wow, that was a great intro. Thank you.
I try to do my research, so you know.
I would love for you to follow me around and just tell everyone.
I'll be your voiceover person
Yes.
wherever you go. Can you give me a little bit of background about your journey of like how you got into entertainment, how you landed the role as Watcher, if your interest in video games, in theater, kind of like from here to there, whenever you're ready.
Okay, wow. Whole life story. Okay,
Yeah.
so I started out in theater, and I'm starting to recognize that there is a existing theater to video game pipeline that
Oh, yeah.
absolutely exists. So I'm glad to be another one of the group, be part of the community. So yeah, I started out in theater. English was not my first language. So doing theater really helped me feel like I was actually able to communicate for the first time. I felt like being able to have a script and being able to practice the lines made me more confident. And for the first time, I felt like I was able to express myself because for anyone who speaks another language, there's always that buffer of, when you hear the words and then you're trying to translate it in your head.
Intertranslate. Yeah.
Yes, the inner translate. And so you're communicating at a very, very base level, and your personality is not coming through yet. I think they always say you have a command of a language when you can joke.
Mm-hmm.
And I was definitely far from being able to share any jokes or share my personality. And so being able to participate in theater with scripted lines helped me show my personality, show who I actually was to my fellow students, because I did theater when I was in elementary school, and then that progressed to musical theater, and in high school I joined an improv team and really connected with performing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really wanted to take it seriously. So after high school, everyone does the High School Musical. And then we did Little Shop of Horrors, by the way.
Oh man, we did The Grinch, I think, at mine.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even know there was a musical of The Grinch.
We kind of made our own. It was very interesting. I would not recommend if there's a tape out there for anyone to watch it, but it was very fun.
Oh, any taped live performance is not worthy of
No.
rewatch. That is for, archival.
Just the Hamiltons.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, that's something different. Yeah. Yeah. And so I always wanted to do voiceovers. And so I started to take it seriously when I was really lucky. And in my improv group, we had a couple of professional voiceover actors. And so they were able to support me and get me started, kind of point me in the right direction. And once I got a real demo, I started doing animation. And
Awesome.
Yeah, I really lucked out. My first booking was for Lego Friends, Heart Lake Stories. So I got to be just an iconic little Lego figure. And after that happened, I got an email from one of the writers from 1000xRESIST, and we had worked in theater together. So all of the people, all of the creatives behind 1000xRESIST all came from theater.
Okay.
So they were reaching out to their theater community that had experience either in voiceover and or on camera to kind of make that transition. And so they reached out asking if I would audition, and they sent me this wonderful pitch package that had probably 7 or 8 different characters, and they asked me to pick which character I wanted to read. But they did say they were like, if you could read for healer or knower. That was the only request.
Okay.
Yeah, but I resonated most with watcher, and I put the audition in, and I ended up getting cast. And it was my first video game, which to me was a bit of a dream come true because I love video games. I grew up with the original Nintendo console. I grew up playing, regular Super Mario, but also I love that. Do you remember that Muppet game? It was a Muppet Carnival game.
I'm getting like a little bit of a, I kind of recognize that, but maybe not. I don't know.
I only had like a few games because my dad was very much like, if you can get a new game when you beat it.
Okay,
And I don't know about you, but I was terrible. I love playing,
yeah,
but
no.
I was just terrible.
I was right there with you.
Yeah, I never beat Mario. I never beat Duck Hunt, which I'm sure you can beat. And I never beat the Muppet game, so I never got any other games. So those were kind of the ones I stuck with. But then like all my friends started graduating to Super Nintendo and N64 and Sega Genesis, and so I was playing there. But just I really recaptured my love of video games during the pandemic.
I feel like a lot of us definitely connected way more with video games during that period.
Yeah, my husband dusted off the PS2 and was like, hey, let's play some games. I have a big collection we can pick from. And so he obviously loved Resident Evil 4 and wanted to replay it. And he was like, just give it a try. You've played video games. But, with the original Nintendo, they just have the D-pad and the A-B buttons. So I'm not used to using a joystick. So kudos to all of you incredible gamers out there. I was trying to shoot with the pressure of zombies coming at me, and I was like shooting straight up in the horizon. And then my husband's like, go down, and I would obviously like over and then point straight down. So
yeah, I feel that because I'm a mouse and keyboard gamer versus just like a controller, and anytime I have a controller in my hand, I'm completely lost. So I feel that definitely.
I have heard that there is like keyboard and mouse users that it is harder for shooting games because the aim, you have to be more specific and more precise.
Yeah.
So
so maybe I'm a 2% better. We'll see. But I'm really interested. So from between say animation and video game voiceover, do you have to come at that with like slightly different approaches, or are both like, do you have like some stuff from theater? Are you like red leather, yellow leathering right before you're recording? Like, is it kind of the same practice?
100% red leather, yellow leathering. I think that for anything to do with voice specifically, you definitely need to warm up your voice. I mean, you should warm up your voice anyways, even if you're doing on camera, but I definitely spend a lot more time because you are using your voice consistently for 4 hours straight. I just ventured into audiobooks, and wow, that is the test of stamina.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
That's like just hours of reading.
It's just you. So yeah, I feel like the preparation is the same with animation and video games. It really depends on the project's tone. There are so many. There's, Lego Friends is definitely geared towards kids and preteens. So the energy is a lot higher. You get to be a little bit bigger in your performance. And it's about, the big thing about animation is a lot of energy and a lot of presence in your voice. While, as you know, with 1000xRESIST, it's more naturalistic.
Yeah.
And I find that video games can really vary as to tone. If you have the shooter games, sometimes they want that energy and the stakes. But 1000xRESIST, even when I got the audition package, they immediately were like, we want a more naturalistic tone.
It's really interesting. I like that. Now, was there any unexpected challenges when doing this role or anything that you learned in the process? Or like, oh, I've never thought about this outside of video games?
Well, it was my first video game, so I feel like everything was new and
Mm.
everything was a learning curve, but it was exciting because we were all learning together.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned, like the team all came from theater, and we're obviously half the team were big game enthusiasts, so they have a strong working knowledge of how games operate, and so therefore like understanding the mechanics. And so something, because the game can be quite complicated in story wise, right? You're jumping through time, everything is incongruent even though you're playing chapter by chapter. And so you would get a script, but because Remy, our creative director, thought might be a little bit complicated, so he thought it'd be easier if I play tested the chapters ahead of recording.
Oh,
And I
interesting.
found that so incredible because I got to see Watcher the way a player would see Watcher and how they would interact with her and how she interacts with the world by physically playing her. So I had like my actor brain on, but I also had my gamer experience on, like learning her in this way and then being able to translate it as an actor.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, obviously, as you kind of like were mentioning, the game is definitely multi-layered. The premise is kind of, it explores super complex like mother-daughter relationships,
Oh,
kind of
yes.
like generational trauma. I know I'm a first gen Canadian, and I'm like, there's certain things. I grew up in a household with my mom and my grandmother, so seeing a lot of things that came up in the game even there as well. Did you draw anything from like personal experiences when you're playing like these types of like really intense characters?
Oh, yes. Absolutely. I'm the firstborn Canadian in my family, and so there was a lot of headbutting,
Mm-hmm.
um, culture clash. I really resonated with both Zhao and Iris. I felt like I've sat on both sides,
Yeah.
where I've been Zhao, where I just want to like the things that I like, and I'm really proud of the food that my family makes, and I want to share my culture. But I've also been Iris, where I know that in doing so, it puts me as the other,
Yeah.
and I just want to fit in because life is just easier that way. And don't drag me down. I'm more than just Vietnamese. I am Canadian Vietnamese, right? So I was really kind of leaning into what is Canadian. And because I grew up in Victoria, British Columbia, at that time, I was the only Vietnamese family. Like, I was the only Vietnamese student in my whole elementary school. So I had nobody else to communicate with or even connect culturally.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, I wanted to be proud of where I came from, but it was difficult because it was putting me out there on a limb that people kind of, took advantage of. People tend to, things that they don't know scare them. And I think sometimes kids can be quite harsh and quite
Mean.
mean.
Yeah.
Quite mean.
White mean.
Yeah, so I had a lot to draw on with that.
Mm-hmm.
So as Watcher, experiencing Zhao and Iris have this constant push and pull with their relationship, and the constant denial of who they were, that really hit me. And I had a lot of personal experience to draw on. And like you were saying, like with it reminded you of your mom and your grandma, and it's true. Like my mom and I definitely struggled growing up with her expectations as well as mine. And I don't know about you, but moving to Canada was a way for us to, um, live a life of freedom, live a
Yeah.
life of
Better opportunities.
yeah,
Yeah.
and choice. And I think sometimes they would look at me and be like, what we're finding it so hard to understand you. And a part of me is like, well, I mean, this is I am the amalgamation of your decision.
Yeah.
And I know that's so, and obviously I couldn't articulate that as a teenager, but as an adult, I'm able to understand that struggle that we had, where they probably saw me pulling away from where they came from, where they're from, their heart, their soul, their culture, but also me embracing the new country, the new identity that we have.
Mhm.
And I feel as an adult, I've been able to reconcile it better and therefore reconcile my relationship with my mom.
It's interesting because I find as I was playing through the game, even within we'll call it the second half of the game where it's not Watcher, it's Blue, and
Mhm.
the freedom that they're then given is just like, well, what do we do with this freedom? How can we restrain ourselves within this freedom? And like even just having all the options, sometimes it's like our families will try to be like, no, this is the only pathway. But we got here because you're giving me the options to explore further. So I really enjoyed kind of exploring that throughout the game. And a lot of the experiences you face definitely can relate to those as well. And I do find it very interesting that we are all kind of Iris and Zhao if we come from kind of like that first generation mentality. And I think even Iris, obviously, by the end, loved Zhao, appreciated her for who she was as a character. But when you're in it, it's just like, no, Dad, we just want pizza, not what you're making us. And that part,
Yeah.
I was just like, ugh. But I guess in hindsight, it is part of like the growing journey of like moving to a different country.
Mhm.
And being proud to be Canadian, but also wanting to embrace your heritage as well.
Absolutely. And like you said, like there were little moments like that that just really hit me and
Yeah.
made me feel a little like definitely guilty
Oh, yeah.
and examine like my own life journey and like, oh, okay, like I did that, but like where am I now?
Yeah.
Have I grown? Oh, please, 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 like, you know.
And even just being like, oh, so my mom acted like that because she's probably feeling like this. And as a kid, you
Yeah.
don't understand that. But hindsight, I guess, 2020.
Hindsight and also growth. We ourselves are experiencing such nuances in life.
Hmm.
And I think we're realizing, oh, because as a kid, things are just simpler. So you're like, why are you being like that?
Yeah, for
And then you
sure.
realize, like, oh, life stresses. Okay, this makes sense. Yeah.
Hmm. And it's interesting. So you come from improv, but Watcher, she takes jokes very literally.
Yes,
So
she
was
does.
it fun kind of like playing those scenes with Bang Bang Fire where it's just like, oh yeah, this is hilarious because she's not hilarious.
Yes, she is what we would call the straight man.
Mm,
For sure. It's one of the reasons why I adore Watcher so much because she's so naive and so earnest. And there's actually a part of me that has that. I am so like people make jokes and I take them literally. I do. There is a part of me that does that. If I don't know you well enough, I I'm a little
sometimes it's
naivete,
tone. Yeah, you
Yeah.
need to know the person sometimes to like really be like, oh, okay, yeah, that was a joke.
Yes. So I feel like that was very fun to play and probably not as hard as one would think for me.
Do you have like one moment or like one recording day or just even on like any kind of from start to finish of this game journey that you're just like, wow, this is like my favorite moment?
Wow, that is so hard. I have so many. Because we recorded it chronologically, and they were actually writing the game as we were recording.
Okay.
So I was in the booth probably for 2 years, on and off, through little spurts. And so I have 2 years of memories to get
Oh
to
yeah, it's
kind
a
of
lot.
it's a lot, and so we had so many amazing because I would record multiple chapters at a time. So every time I was in the booth, I felt like I would always go through this creative arc, exploring every topography and even just experiencing this, because I usually was the one recording first. So I didn't have playback in my cans of anybody else most of the time, except for the interrogation scene with Nowhere. Nowhere was the lead in that one, so
Yeah.
I got to respond to her. But I think if I were to, off the top of my head, I love that monologue that Blue did with Jackie, the plant Jackie.
Okay, yeah.
I thought it was so beautiful, and it encapsulated who she was as a person through this conversation with her dear friend that she lost. All that guilt. And also Blue has a lot of, has a hard exterior. She plays it cool. And I felt like that was her first real vulnerable moment with the plant by herself.
Now, when it comes to the more either like emotional scenes or like just intense scenes, do you prepare differently when you're going into the studio versus just kind of like the day-to-days?
I don't know. I don't. I mean, I'm sure every actor's process is different. For me, I don't think of it differently. I prep all the scenes ahead of time. I just read them over. I try not to over rehearse. Part of it is just really acknowledging where the scene takes place in the game, what's happening. I just need to be aware of who I'm talking to, the relationship I have with them, where I'm at in that particular timeline, like what has happened
Yeah.
to ground me in that moment. And then I take it from there. And something that was really fascinating was that Remy was also the voice director for all of my sessions, and he really didn't give direction up front. He really let me take the lead on how I wanted to express the character. And if there was any feedback, then it would be a conversation, and then we would get to collaborate about different options or series of that line. But overall, he would let me go on a journey with Watcher, and if there was ever a question as to why I delivered it like that, it would be this great creative conversation after.
Which is really good to hear, because certainly not all creative directors are like that. Sometimes it's like, no, script Bible, that's it. So
Yes.
It's good that they let you play around in that creative space. I think it definitely gives a more authentic performance when you do it that way.
Yeah, and I mean, the lines, I never changed the lines. The lines were always sacred. But it was more like how I wanted to do them and where Watcher was coming from in that particular moment. Yeah, there would only be like a couple times where Remy would be like, "Oh no, this is the vibe I want. So let's try this." And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Do you have like a favorite part of the game, or even like just like a favorite setting? Because there's a lot of back and forth here and there. So
it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
I will say the game, because of all the perspective changes, like different camera, first person to third person, side scroller, overhead, like it's so cinematic, and it keeps you guessing, and it never makes you comfortable in a particular environment. And I think that was done on purpose. Like, it should not feel like home.
Yeah.
You know how other games, when you play, you're like, oh, this is home base. This is my home. I feel good when I come back here. I'm exploring new worlds, but I come back here. I don't think that place exists in 1000xRESIST. And I think it's supposed to kind of make you feel untethered, and therefore be on this journey to find the truth, right? As you're jumping through time and traveling to all these places, you're trying to find something that can ground you.
Yeah.
But I will say, oh my God, there's so many beautiful scenes. I think the first scene that made me gasp was the gymnasium scene.
In which time period?
Oh, good point.
Yeah.
When she goes back in time and she meets Principal, and you see all the kids floating.
Yeah, that was very
Haunting.
cinematic. Yeah. And it was fun for me because at certain points, like say you have something chasing you, the game kind of like keeps you like, no, you could only go at this pace, even though
Oh my
something's just
gosh.
coming at you and you're just like, oh no, let me out.
I know. Or like when you jump through time to find out what happened to Zhao with the street
Mm.
lights.
Yeah.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
it's such a unique, even like at the very end, it's just like, oh, you get to choose how this ends. Which lights are you turning on? Which ones are you turning off?
Yes.
It's just like, oh, this is a lot of responsibility. And I even had a couple of combinations that did not work out for me. And I had to go back and redo it. And I'm like, yep, okay, that's probably a good choice.
But it makes you think, if you had all the options, what would you do?
Yeah.
And you're right, the responsibility falls on you, which is a lot, because usually games tend to be like, okay, no, this is the way, or there's 3 options. But it's
Mhm.
like, when you have
And
all, yeah.
all the power. And it's not all good and it's not all bad. And like, you just have to be okay with that because that's life, which I think is a really cool message in a game because it's realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Now, kind of separate from the game, if you could voice act or could have voice acted any kind of video game character, who would you have chosen?
Ugh, that's so hard.
Because then at the same time, you're like, oh, I love that character for who they are if you take away that voice.
But that's what I mean. But if you take away the
Yeah.
voice, you take away their soul.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a hard one, because I feel like, and I really believe this, I feel like every actor brings themselves to a role. So even if I were to play that role, it would be different.
Yeah,
And I
for
think that's
sure.
what's so magical about acting, is that you can have that's why there's so many iterations of like Romeo and Juliet, right? Because it can be completely different from each actor, the chemistry between those 2 actors, and how you want to portray it. Oh, that's a non-answer I'm giving you, but
Yeah, that's fair. Is there any fictional characters that haven't made it to, say, screen or video game that you're just like, oh, I would love to play, or even just like an archetype? Like, what would you love to be your next project if you had the choice to do so?
oof. I mean, I have mentioned this before, but I would love to play a badass. Like
Mm,
someone that's a little bit more action-based. Um, yeah, someone that is a little bit more I mean, Watcher is fearless, but in a very passive way, if that makes sense.
she's like lawful good for sure.
Yes! Oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
love that you're pulling that out 100%. She totally is, and I feel like I would wanna be more like roguelike.
Yeah, I love that. I'm trying to think. I've asked a lot of questions and I love all of the answers because they're so dynamic too. And like,
But what would you pick? Come on, give me one.
oh, if I could voice act anything,
Mhm.
you know, I've never had my own questions turned back on me. So thank you. This is a
Of
first.
course.
I want to be. I'd love to play. I love like a Tiny Tina type of character. So like something I would want to play a voice of something that looks completely different and kind of play with the dualities of that kind of character.
Oh, that
I
is so cool.
I like the unexpected. I don't know. Maybe that's the Gemini in me, but
Ooh, I'm a Libra, I get it.
okay, yeah. Is if you could collaborate with kind of like, and actually we'll go with this. If you could collaborate with anybody that you've already worked with, do you have anyone that you love working with that you'd want to work with again over and over and over?
You mean in video games in particular, or just
Well, we'll say
any
any project, really.
Oh, that's such a big question. I mean, because I'm so new to video games,
Mhm.
and I've only worked with Sunset Visitor, obviously, I would love to work with them again, always and forever. But hey, anyone listening, love to work with you. I feel like this has quenched my appetite, and I'm hungry for more, and I'm ready. And I just think games is the new platform, I think, for change. I think when you have games can normalize big philosophical conversations and issues in the world that need to be presented forward in a very beautiful narrative, in a way that when people play, they don't feel like it's being thrown upon them, right? They're not like getting knocked over the head with something, or it's not what we call like agitprop, which is
Yeah.
like, yeah. So I feel like it's a really beautiful, organic way for people to experience something different that maybe they never would have experienced before. For instance, like I know a lot of people who played this game in particular said they didn't know anything about the Hong Kong protests and then started Googling it and researching it.
Oh, for sure.
Because
I
because
definitely learned a lot from the game in regards to that.
yeah, or even like some of the dishes, like, oh, I wonder what that dish is. Just learning about different cultures and different experiences. And I think that the whole game is not about that. It's about a universal human story at heart. And I think that is how people can connect and people can learn.
For sure. It's like a safe way to explore kind of different feelings, ideas, cultures. I completely understand from that point. I just want to say it was such a good game. I kind of sit sometimes and I just think about my game experience because it really is such a journey, and I think you did such a fantastic job. So thank you for bringing like all of that passion to the character. And I will probably replay it over and over
Oh my
again.
gosh. Thank you so
And
much for playing. Honestly, it's that's where all of our momentum has been. It's been people playing it and then sharing it with their friends. And so thank you so much.
and obviously recently you were at the Canadian Game Awards, and
It
I was
was.
in the room, watched you talk.
Oh,
How did you feel? How was your night there? Do you go to a lot of kind of award shows for video games, or even just in entertainment in general? How do you prep for that?
um, I I have gone for a lot of awards ceremonies before for film festivals for my film and television work.
Mhm.
I also, with 1000xRESIST, we've been kind of going on an awards tour, which has been amazing. Actually, right before I came to Toronto, I was in Las Vegas. And because I left a day early, that's why I made it to Toronto, because I skipped the snowstorm that
Oh
y'all were
yeah,
having.
I remember you saying the team got stuck.
Yeah, and man, when you do snow, you really do snow. And I
Unfortunately.
yeah, and I feel like Vegas got too scared, couldn't handle it, and so the rest of my team didn't make it. So it was nice being able to accept the award on Kodai's behalf, because he worked so hard, and also we had a speech written, which was very nice. It took the pressure off of me. I feel like I am not very good at award speeches for
I think you did
myself.
fantastic.
Oh, thank you. That's because it wasn't for
Yeah.
me. I feel like when it's for me, I think because of my improv background, I think I was like, oh yeah, I can just accept awards and speak from the heart. And yeah, that'll be that. It'll be great. It'll be organic. The last couple of awards I've won and I've accepted, I've just I don't even know who I thanked. I forgot to thank my director. I forgot to thank my husband, who was at the festival and also won an award and thanked me. So I don't know what happens. I think I blank out. I get overwhelmed. I'm feeling the energy in the room, and I'm just so I think I need to get better at that.
I know a lot of people just like carry a list, but then, depending on what ceremony, they're like, all right, hurry up. The music's playing. Let's go. So, other than that, I think I've come to kind of the conclusion of my questions. I want to thank you again for being here, for letting me kind of pick your brain about the game and your history with it, and also your other projects. For the people that are listening, do you have any upcoming projects that you kind of want to let the people know, or anything you're currently doing that's kind of neat?
Ooh, that is tough. There's a couple of things. I produced a short film called The Sorrow, and we recently were in the Canadian realm in the Blood in the Snow Film Festival that's in Toronto back in November, and I won Best Performance. And we are finishing, oh, thank you. We are finishing our film festival tour this year. So I can't announce it, but it's another Canadian Film Festival that will be showing it, and it will be our last screening. So I can't
Awesome.
say yet because it's not public. And I'm also producing a feature film called Sawtooth Mountain. It's a horror thriller about 3 college friends who get stuck in a horrifying ordeal after renting a Bigfoot-themed cabin from 2 paranormal obsessed brothers.
Hmm.
Yes. So we're in post-production for that right now. So that hopefully we should be coming out this fall. And you can check out on Dread Central. We have a exclusive first look with them. So yeah.
Great. Well, thank you to everyone listening. Thank you for being here again, for chatting with us. Again, everyone, my name is Sami, here from a gaming podcast and a gaming network, and tune in next time.